great.
So I guess we're going to start with the basics, just like about you and your nursing career and how it started. So what made you decide to become a nurse?
Gosh, when I was little. So I was probably like kindergarten, and I knew I wanted to help people, and somehow I was fascinated with nursing. So I would, every Halloween, I'd dress up as a nurse, and my poor dolls, it was like I'd be doing surgery or giving them shots. Anyhow, I always wanted to help people, and I always, growing up, I talked to a couple of my like pediatricians, so Dr. Ortiz, Dr. Ellis, and it was interesting. They told me at that time if I wanted to, as a woman especially, if I wanted to have a family, don't go into medicine. So they said that they had sacrificed their families. I think it's a little bit different now, but they, at that time when you were private practice, like you were in charge of everything. And so they suggested no. We actually wish we could have the relationships nurses have with their patients. So I was like, okay, so that's how it went. So I always knew nursing was going to be the thing.
What's your passion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so what are your degrees, your titles at this time?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I was really fortunate. So I guess to backtrack, what was kind of neat about growing up in the Valley is Christy Gillespie, who's the PMH director. So from a young age, we both knew we wanted to be nurses. So it was kind of cool. At the age of 13, they let us be a volunteer at El Centro Hospital. Can you believe that? So Sunday afternoons, Christy and I were there, pushing people around, taking stuff to the labs. And then what was exciting was at the age of, I think we were juniors, 16, they let us become CNAs and ROP. So it's kind of crazy. They don't let you do that anymore. But we were exposed really quickly. So that helped because I knew I needed to get in and get out. So when I graduated Hopeville High at the age of 17, I was young. They let you go to kindergarten at 4 back then. I knew I wanted a 4-year program. So I picked Azusa Pacific University. So in 4 years, I had my Bachelor's of Science in Nursing, and I was a nurse. So that was really transformational. I didn't waste any time. That first semester, we were already in nursing school. So you don't have to do prerequisites and then wait. So we were already working at all the big hospitals in LA. So when I graduated there, I was really fortunate. I think I was one of 14 nurses in the entire United States that got picked for a big critical care trauma nurse internship. So my parents drove me to Dallas, Texas, and dropped me off, and I was already in grad school. So their program was, I think, it's the longest internship in the United States. It's been around a long time. So this was 1990. So I graduated Hopeville High 91, graduated Azusa 95 in May, and by August I was already in an acute care nurse practitioner program with University of Texas Arlington, and then I was working for Parkland. So Parkland is a really famous hospital for a couple of things. They have 4 emergency rooms. They have their own OB side. They have a trauma hall. They have a medicine, and they have a psych ER. And then they have about 6 different intensive care units. So I was able to go through all those units. I was already a nurse, but they had such an amazing program. So they wanted us all to be jointly in that graduate program, earning credit, and then we all, by that March, were certified in critical care. It was a really cool experience. So I was on the fast track. And what's really unique about Parkland is their burn unit. So the burn ICU, the burn formula. So I was a Parkland, they call this a NIP, a nurse intern program. And then I was able to work for over a year exclusively in the burn ICU. So I loved it. But life happens, and married the high school sweetheart. So then I was like, okay, what are we going to do? We were a long ways away from family. We were young, thought about starting a family. And that's when I was like, okay, we'll go back. So we came back. And so this was back in 97. So I stopped, my program, and I thought, okay, I'll go back to Pioneers. So I was working in the ICU and the ER as a charge nurse. I was back before computers, so they hired me. I sent my resume in, and it's like, here, you're hired. Okay. And here I got my job's description in the mail. I was like, well, I'm a charge nurse. Okay, cool. So when I came back, it was like a time warp. It was like, whoa, I was here in this trauma center, level 1, where as a nurse, you were part of the professional team. We had nurse practitioners back then, in the ICU, the ER, as the hospitalist. The CRNAs, if you had a patient coding, it was the CRNAs that would come and intubate. So it was so strange to come back and I think I was there were 3 of us that had bachelor's degrees. The chief nursing officer didn't even have a bachelor's degree, was associate degree prepared. So it was very hard with a lot of the physicians, And then the nurses, there was an attitude like IVC was the best program in the state, and I wasted my time, and I wanted everybody to say, you need to go take a field trip. There's a big world out there. Yeah. And so it was really hard because we have a non-questioning culture. So our patients would come in, and I'm looking at them thinking, wow, you should not be dying, but they didn't even realize like things had gone wrong, and we were not very proactive. So it was really hard when I came back. The physicians, a couple of them, we would just constantly kind of have these matches, and it was incident report after incident report, because I'm like, okay, your patient's not getting the care that they need. But if I suggested anything, they'd get mad at me. I'm like, who do you think you are? You're only a nurse. I'm the physician. So after about 2 years in my first pregnancy, which was it was really rough, so I realized, all right, I either need to step up and be the director of nursing, or I need to step out and do something different, because I felt like the Lone Ranger. And so that's exactly what I did. So the beauty of nursing is, went back to school, went back to San Diego State in San Diego. I was commuting with a cohort of about 4 of us, and about that same time, we all became school nurses, and we joined the master's program for community health through San Diego State. So it was based on community health and leadership, but you could also get a credential. So to be a school nurse, you have to have a bachelor's degree, and you have 5 years to finish that credential. And we all just decided, you know what, we're going to actually get the master's as well. So that was really amazing, because I had worked when I was up in LA at Azusa as a student. Children's Hospital of Los Angeles hired me my junior year, and so I had worked in peds, and then came here and realized, wow, we don't really have any pediatric care. And so as a school nurse, all those kids that get shipped over the hill come back. So they're in the school, they could have ventilators, tube feedings, urostomy, catheterizations, portacaths, no immune systems, some of them with muscular dystrophy. We had to buy Hoyer lifts. So that was really eye-opening to me. So all my hospital friends at the time were like, wow, you're giving up on nursing, you're not going to have skills anymore. I'm like, come see what I'm dealing with. Like, it was really challenging to have these kids in regular classrooms that had such health needs. So I did that I worked for the county office for about 6 months, and we covered up to Winter Haven, San Francisco, to Niland, to Westmoreland, all the schools that didn't have school nurses, and then Hopeville's position opened up. So that was wonderful. So as I finished my master's, transitioned to Hopeville, and I was there then for like 9 years. So I did that for about 10 years, and actually about 7 years in, University of Phoenix started posting, hey, we're going to have an RN-to-BS, track. Anybody with a master's want to teach. So that's where I first got my teaching experience, and so I loved teaching. And it's been fun, because a lot of those initial cohorts, there was no other option. So you either drove, commuted, or you had to do online, but most Valley nurses don't like online as much. It's like you kind of need a mix of things, right? So that was great. A lot of those nurses now have become nurse practitioners and things. So it's been fun to see graduates of both programs. But anyhow, so that exposed me to teaching. And so this program came about in 2007. And I was thrilled. They really wanted a nurse practitioner, and they got me. So it's been amazing. So we've now been at this 12 and a half years. And what was great is, after the first couple of years, I realized, wow, there's a lot more to this, and started to think about, do I need to go back to school? And at the time, with a master's degree, I couldn't be tenure track faculty, but it was like I could get things going. But after a few more years, then realized I need to go back. So I just finished the PhD in education, and it was with, thank you. Oh my gosh, so now I'm Dr. White. So now it really is about education and research. And so for me, I didn't pick nursing. It's like, I know how to be a nurse, but really we need to know how to teach better, and how students learn in our community about literacy. I was really concerned about health literacy, because our patients have a hard enough time with English. And then you throw in all the medical stuff. So I just finished in December, and now there's been a couple more of us who will have PhDs. So my dream is that we'll use all of my, experience and education, because we now have RN-to-BS, and we've graduated well over like 225 students. We now have the masters. We have 19 that'll graduate May 2020. So our next round would be August 2020. And we hope to not just have MS in leadership, but anybody wanting the NP-CNS midwifery, that they could do their core classes here and then go to San Diego, because you need to have a good mix of clinicals there and here. So that's the hope. And then my dream is, especially as you all come back and have master's degrees and are experts, that we could have our own 4-year BSN. So we'd probably be about 3 to 5 years out from that. But to teach all those pre-licensure classes, you have to be approved. It takes about a year, and you have to be clinically current. So that's kind of the big picture of where I've been, where I'm headed. Anyhow. So, and I don't want to lose, we want to keep the track between IVC and us, but it's a challenge. We have a lot of high school students, like these guys now in leadership, they go in and they coach in the high schools. And so this was a year ago, and Mark Carlos, the middle guy, he's up at UCSF in an NP program, and then Alex and Frank are ER nurses, and they're both thinking about going back. So, and this was Eduardo Garcia, our assembly member. So it's been really interesting, the political side of thing and being visible. It makes a big difference. So,
Yeah, something that we're being introduced to, like
It's
the
important.
political side of like, oh, we've been stuck in the hospital bedside so much.
Which
It's
is
like,
political. They kept you at the bedside. So your
Yeah.
organizational structure, it's a
Yeah.
top-down organization. So when you guys were wanting to unionize,
Oh yeah.
should have asked for the magnet model instead. So what you really needed was a different organizational structure. So it's like, we want a voice. Well, the union added a middleman and complicated things. But if you would have had like the magnet hospitals, a shared governance structure, that changes that a little bit. So, but it's hard if we don't know what to ask for. It's like,
Where to
so
start, yeah.
it's been kind of interesting to look at the evolution now, and with UCSD coming in to El Centro and Scripps, affiliating with PMH, there's a lot of opportunities, but we still have to be able to, charter a course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess you pretty much covered a lot of it. But according to you, what is the best thing about the nursing profession? What would
I love all the different roles we have, right? So it's fun to be caregiver, and I think that's important because you guys have it. If you don't go into it for the right reason, like the compassion piece, I don't think it's very satisfying for you or patients, right? Because we've, now that I've been a patient a couple times, I realize, wow, the nurses that really don't have a heart, there's a mismatch. They might be super smart, but I just needed somebody to hold my hand, cry with me, make sure my pain was covered. So you see that on your team. Anyhow, what I like about it is the different roles. So I originally was like, oh, I'm going to be an ICU nurse, and I did that, and it was great. But then it's like, okay, I can work in the schools. I can teach. Now I'm a part of research and looking at, our obesity problem or diabetes or asthma. So I actually really like now, the politics, but it's not politics, it's more than networking. And a nurse has such a unique vision, right? We can see the big picture. We understand their physical needs. We can come up with a diagnosis in our mind. Oh, they're having a heart attack. Okay. And we know what to do for them, right? But I also like the psychosocial piece, and that's what's different than being a physician or a social worker. It's you're the clinician, but you also know if they're not able to cope with it and have the social support. And then I love the holistic thing, and so it's been great. I've been able to pray with patients, and I think about like the end of life stuff, and you can see those patients that really need a good nurse to, because it's sad, but yet it can also be a very satisfying time. So that's what I liked about it. In the beginning, it was more about acute care, and I love doing all the technical skills and being a part of the fast action. But as I've gone forward, I love nursing because it's really about being a part of a bigger team. And with the Institute of Medicine, everything saying that we should be the leader, I now love that leadership role. So I think it's like the ultimate team sport healthcare. And so it's kind of fun because they've, I think we're like, on a football team, I think we're like the center. Like we have the ball, and we have to figure out like, okay, actually, let me see. The patient's supposed to be there. So maybe we're like the quarterback because we're supposed to have that patient be the center of the care, but it's hard because they don't always know where it should go. So I guess, we should be like the quarterback for the team. Anyhow, so I like the different roles now.
Well, talking about about leadership, can you describe your current role as a leader now?
Yes, so I am the nursing program coordinator. So in that, it's funny. I guess I have a title, but